Hello, everyone. Let me get the screen up here. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And really appreciate all of you folks that were on time. And we'll get started now a few minutes late, but respecting your time. Hopefully, the majority of folks are here. And for the next hour plus, the opportunity really is to work on your business. My goal here is to give you lots of ideas and almost a buffet of lead gen ideas and mindset that you can, apply to your business. And part of that is using your workbook. All of you should have received a really simple multi-page document that is a workbook to take time and work on your business over the next hour and a bit versus returning phone calls and dealing with inspections and other things. As many of you already have, thank you for muting yourself, and please feel free throughout the process to put any questions into the chat box for the end, and I'll answer any of those as well. Keep in mind, I will be emailing you all a link to the recording, some of the contents that we'll talk about, and the workbook as well. So this, again, in summary, is a really, really good window of time for you to be working on your business. And that has been one of the big differences that's helped me in my business over the last few years. Make it more manageable and more enjoyable is putting time into my calendar of working on my business versus always just doing tasks. And you get a lot more creativity and opportunity like this to figure out what you want to improve in your lead gen. One thing I want to talk about as well is a tip that I learned, and some of you who know me, I might have already shared this with you, but it's a really simple thing, and it's something I learned probably about 5-6 years ago. It's called delay, deflect, and do. And kind of came naturally to me early on when I was doing a bit more traveling before COVID for work. And I would land somewhere after about a 5-6 hour flight, and my phone would have 6-7 messages on it. And I would answer, the first one would be a small level fire that someone was asking for my help to resolve it, to have input or to deal with it. And by the end of my messages, maybe message number 5 or 6, which might have been a couple hours later, that person often, called back saying, no need to call me. I've resolved it through, any method of ways. And so it really showed me the power of not ignoring, but delaying. And a lot of times people are bringing you challenges and problems that, yes, you can fix, but it's not your responsibility and someone else can do it as well. And then item number 2 is deflecting. So what I mean by that is there's someone else that's, better suited that can take this problem off your hands. So as simple as calling in a service provider or finding someone else that is more suited to deal with the problem. And then the third item, always the last resort for my brain cell, but totally, willing to jump on it, is do it. And so once delay, deflect doesn't work, I jump on the task or the problem and just get it done. And so that's a mindset that I wanted to share with you, along with a new one that I have this year. And it's really simple. It's kind of like get real, get right, and get in the fight. And so what that means is we really have a tendency to perhaps live in a moment of time that was the past, and we want it back without really realizing that that's no longer in front of us. It's not real. It's not the environment we're in. And we might be in a mindset of a bit of complaining or poor me or wanting it to be easier. And so we're not in the right frame of mind. And when you're able to get past those two things and come to terms with it, you're ready to, so to speak, get in the fight and take care of things and attack things head on. So I wanted to leave those 2 items with you. So let's talk about the workbook. Again, this is a really good opportunity for you to be working on your lead gen system while I'm, going through different mindsets and brainstorming opportunities. My intention is for you to work on it. You might want to share it with someone else on this recording or with an accountability partner. It's really powerful to have accountability partners in your business. And, you can choose to sit back and just listen and maybe fill out the workbook at another time, or do it both at the same time and really get the most value out of the hour ahead. So a little bit of what we'll cover is who is myself, Roland Kim, talk about a little bit of referral strategy and something that I'm looking for. Then we're going to talk about models and concepts of around lead gen and best practices. And then we're going to touch on a number of lead gen ideas. We're not going to go through 99 because I would be here for most of the afternoon. Probably within about 6 months, I'm turning this course into a book. And so each one of those 99 plus lead gen ideas will have kind of a game plan to them. And so hopefully it'll be a valuable resource for yourselves and other people to have an action plan, a game plan behind each lead gen idea on how to apply it and best practices. And then at the end, there's time available if there's any questions from anyone. So who am I? The only reason I really share this is I'm really cognizant of making sure that the advice and the knowledge that I'm getting when I dip my cup into other people's knowledge bucket, that they are they're coming from credit, they're coming from validity. I think there's so many people out there now that are selling a product or a service or pitching something that they've done, and it's it doesn't come from a long pedigree of success. So for myself, I've been a realtor now for more than 20 years, for 15 years, consistently in the top 1%. And I have moved my real estate business to a place where, I'm working about 20 hours a week on my real estate. And I have a few other businesses that I'm passionate about and put my energy towards. And from that 20 hours a week, I've consistently sold a property a day, and not a day, a property a week, and part of a team that is selling a property every 2 to 3 days. And so I'm self-made. I'm pretty simple. And what I like about that is I really believe that everyone can apply things that I've learned and other things out there and do just as well, hopefully even better. And so it's been a long time in the making, but it's a consistent, scalable, repeatable business that I have. So for all you folks, I think we have around 31 people right now watching. Any of you that are outside of the Greater Vancouver area, I would love to earn your referrals. And so we cover with the team from Chilliwack to Squamish. We have a 30% squared or tried, whatever that's called. Well, essentially what that means is we pay 30% referral fee on any of your referrals and any business those referrals generate for the following 3 years. So it's not unusual for us to pay out multiple referral checks on one referral that came in if other business is generated from it. And so for any of you outside the Lower Mainland, I'd love to apply to be your realtor. I have one of the team members. And again, a little ask for any of you local Greater Vancouver realtors. I'm part of my business model is buying books of business from retiring agents. So if you know of anyone, if you decide to leave the business or you know of a great realtor that is looking to retire, I'd love to sit down with them and see if there's a way that I can take over their business and continue to provide their clients great service, and in turn have a win-win exit for that realtor with a financial buyout. All right. So where are you in your business? This is a good kind of simple scale of asking yourself where your satisfaction and your success currently is in your business. Many of us are in the middle average. Some of us feel like we're in failure or failing forward, but we're still showing up and succeeding. And so give yourself a pat on the back and more credit than you probably do. But success really comes from doing the things that you don't want to do. And so that is definitely something that I have noticed as the differentiating factor between, the most successful people and the folks that want it easier is, I'd say 80% of what most people do is not what they want to do, but they know it needs to be done. It's kind of like your lead gen every morning. It's kind of like, the tasks that lead you to the success you want. And so it is your path that you're on, and you get to choose where you're going to focus your activities on, determining where you want to be on the path of business. So there's a number of myths about lead gen, and one I'd say the most typical and popular one is a lot of realtors and business people believe that they are bothering people when they contact them, when they're doing their lead gen, their relationship building. And so that often is a roadblock that stops them from, moving forward and doing their daily relationship building, their daily lead gen. When in truth, you're a professional. You provide amazing value and solutions, and the people you service really value that. And unless you feel that you're terrible at your profession and that everyone else is better than you, it's your clients, the people around you, deserve to work with you. And so, in truth, lead gen is actually a gift to the people that you share it with. And very rarely will someone, be really offended by it. Most people are just really, really busy, and so we often have to do much more lead gen than we think we do to get anywhere with a prospect or a referral or a client. But it is, again, in your brain where often you are your own worst enemy of being the block forward in your lead gen. So on your success path and on the booklet that you have, there's a number of things that you should fill out, and really helps you figure out, why you're doing what you're doing. So what's your big why? I would say the purpose in life for most people is happiness, but everyone has a different way of getting there. So their big why might be that, they want to support a lifestyle for their family. They might want to have a certain type of car or home or lifestyle for themselves, or they want to be part of, a situation that requires money or requires different. Mute this person. One moment. So the idea here is really understanding why, especially in real estate, that you're showing up every day and putting in all those hours of lead gen, often in a profession that the outsiders feel is a lot easier. And I'd say that we really almost lie to the public and make them think that our jobs are so easy and so enjoyable, and yet 80% of what we have to do, what we do that leads us to success, are those little things that no one thinks is part of real estate. So beyond that, what is your goal? And really where it gets tangible is, what are your daily habits that are going to bring you there? And it's all about daily habits that are bringing you down and keeping you away from your goal and your big why, or daily habits that are bringing you closer to it. And regardless of whether you've actively ever thought about which habits you want to grow or which ones are serving you, you're constantly emulating habits every day. And so really figuring out which ones you may want to do more of, which ones you may want to do less of, is an important exercise, because it helps you understand where your energy could be focused and where your business is coming from. And then 80%, in my opinion, of success is simple activity and action. You can fine tune it. You can get more effective and more, creative through role playing and tweaking your skills. But it's all built on activity. If you don't have enough activity and enough action, you just don't have enough sticks in the fire, so to speak. And it's hard to really see the success you want from your goal. And how are you going to stay accountable? A lot of that comes, for myself from accountability groups or peers that I have, and they might not be formal accountability partners, but I certainly call them on a regular basis, and we share ideas. And certainly when I'm at a place of, determining what path forward or what options, I share it with them. And so I've built a group of people around me that are very important for my accountability. I have a coach that helps me with my numbers, also calls my BS when, I want to come up with reasons why something wasn't done. And what I've really found effective is making tweaks and adjustments along the path, not making abrupt or large, reactions or jerks of movements will really help you. The small, corrections and tweaks are the things that are going to have the biggest impact over the long run, and are very manageable in the short term. A lot of it comes from time blocking. So you can answer the question yourself: how good are you in your time blocking? The two fundamentals of time blocking really are that you need to visually set a schedule, that blocks your time so that you can see where you're doing your lead gen, you're doing, your relationship building, your action steps, your family time, your personal time. And I find important to group the related tasks into a concentrated block, so you get the most efficiency out of those tasks. So, I wouldn't 1/2 hour do lead gen and the next 1/2 hour do fitness, and then the next 1/2 hour do, relationship calls, and then the next 1/2 hour go and do your shopping. That's abrupt, it's ineffective, but I mean, it's still probably better than someone that's doing no time blocking. And so a lot of folks ask me, how can I get better at getting efficiency out of my schedule? Many years ago, most people didn't have a time blocking schedule, and now many people do, but they're really not following it. And so it's difficult. And so what are some of the tips that help people? Well, if you talk to most successful people, prospecting is first thing in the morning. Now, there certainly are people who like prospecting in the afternoon or other times, but across the board, on average, the most successful people do prospecting first thing in the morning. And the reason for that is it's just mechanically the time that you'll likely be least interrupted by the world. And so, again, I suggest fitting your mornings for prospecting. And part of that is making sure that your team around you, your family, your kids, your coworkers, your staff understand when your lead gen time is. It also really helps them figure out, when they need to focus on their business, because the lead gen here, on the purpose of this presentation and as the role of a realtor, the lead gen's your top 20%. Like, everything else can wait till the afternoon. If you get messages or emails or something that have come in over the evening, and if you haven't answered them by 9 in the morning, which you shouldn't, they can certainly wait till 11 or noon. That kind of protects your energy and continues to keep you maintained in that frame of mind of lead generation. It's harder than it sounds. A lot of great things that make an impact in your world are simple but not easy to apply. So go to bed early and wake up early. As the old saying goes, you simply can't hang out with turkeys at night and then fly with the eagles in the morning. As I was saying before, don't listen to any voicemail or return any phone calls, or look at your phone before your lead generation is done, because it'll bring your brain to other things versus focusing on that most important task of the day, which is maintaining a consistent prospecting time block. As Zig Ziglar states, it's easier to get focused when you have the habit at the same time every day. So for myself, I have my lead gen 9 a.m. to 10:30, 11. I do that right after I drop the kids off. I do it at my home office, and then I drive into the work office. And on a few rare occasions where it's just a doctor appointment or some type of a situation that I have to deal with during that window of time, I will make sure to move that lead gen window later in the day. And worst case, I'll double it up somewhere. But I make sure that I'm consistently prospecting over an hour. My goal is an hour and a half, but over an hour every single day. And for me, that's not cold calling anymore. That's just calling my database, my sphere, inviting them to client events, updating them on some market condition, having conversations. And honestly, if I have to be truthful with myself, the lead gen world has gotten easier and harder. So harder is that, 15 years ago when I was watching a realtor, after they've been in the business for a decade, they kind of had a moat around their clients. You know, it was pretty hard for those clients to be poached by another realtor, especially a young, aggressive and motivated realtor, because the clients had relationship with the existing realtor, and that realtor was the gatekeeper of information. Well, folks, the gatekeeper of information has changed. A realtor is no longer, in my opinion, an area expert. They're really an information expert and a client care expert. And so often our clients now, if you're honest with yourself, will find their property before you ever do. You really help them in navigating the process and making sure that they get the property that fits for them at the right time with the best terms. And so because of that, prospecting has gotten much harder and relationship building where you can't take your foot off the gas and get out of relationship and stop maintaining those good prospecting or relationship building habits, because if you don't, someone else will. And you can lose a client that you've been working with for well over a decade, very, very quickly. And because we're living in a world of, I call it Amazon time. So everyone, until they need something, doesn't need it. And then when they need it, they want it right away. And real estate's the same thing. Now, on the positive side, prospecting has gotten so much easier than when I first started. Even 15 years ago, you would not you wouldn't say that you had done prospecting unless you talked to the person. A voicemail didn't count. And often you were really trying to reach the person on the phone. Where now I'm finding, I can call someone and they don't answer, but I know they saw my call. I send them a text, often with an image, and say, the purpose of my call was just to invite you to the upcoming Pumpkin Client Appreciation event we have on October 15th at our Market Center, and would love to see you there. Hope you're doing well. Sending that was really quick, really easy. I can send many of those every single day. The recipient feels, in this world, it seems like it's just as valuable as a 30, 20-minute conversation, and it's way more efficient. It's way more effective. So there are pros and cons as time moves on for lead gen. The most important part is just to have it consistent and really protect it. And then, the nice part about building your day and your business around consistent lead gen and prospecting is I reward myself, and I feel really darn proud of myself when I completed all the tasks on my daily schedule, and regardless of whether I did a transaction that day or that week. Obviously, it all leads to transactions, and that's what we want. But I don't directly control, if I do a sale that week, but I do control, did I put in 5 days of lead generation and fulfilling my daily set of deliverables? And if I did, that's a solid week, regardless of whether I put an offer together or got a listing or any of those other things. And I know consistently that I'm winning when that happens. Other folks find that they're successful through accountability, maybe punishing yourself, making yourself do things that you don't want to do, like have an open house or do some prospecting on an off day if you didn't do your work or your job during the week. And honestly, it isn't that real life. Like if you weren't a realtor and you were an employee and your employer said, get this project done, and you kind of didn't do the work for 2 days, wouldn't you be doing it on a weekend to catch up? And yet, as a realtor, many of us, let the lead gen, the prospecting fall off and never catch up. We never recover on it. And then we're surprised when our business is stalling or even falling apart and not growing to the levels we want. So lead gen engines is what we're talking about today. And there's so many different ways of growing your business, so many little engines that you could create and pour into for lead generation. You really need to figure out what fills your bucket. And what I mean by that is what gives you energy and what is just stuff. There's definitely, as we spoke about, lots of stuff that you're going to have to do regardless of whether you like it or not, but you don't have to, choose to double down on a lead gen engine that is focused on and requires stuff that you don't like. Find a lead gen engine that gives you energy and that requires activities that fill your bucket, because it'll be so much easier to get up every day and do it. So let's talk a little bit more about that. So for myself, I have figured out what is my stuff and what is my energy. So things I don't really like. What is the stuff? I'll certainly do it if I need to, but I don't want to add more of it to my plate. I don't really like touring with buyers. I like buying with buyers. I like having a short list of properties or having something that we've honed in on and getting into the process of writing an offer. So I like buying with buyers, but touring properties, I'm not in love with real estate where I just want to look at properties. That doesn't fill my bucket. I do paperwork. I do it if I need to, but I'm not a fan of it. I don't like to do pop buys and deliveries or open doors or have surface conversations. I really don't like to waste time, and I really don't like to work with unmotivated clients. And so that's kind of my stuff. And again, it's not that I won't do it if I need to, but I'm not going to find ways of growing my business that requires me to double down on the stuff column. So things that fill my bucket, things that give me energy. Really love working with people who listen to me, who think that I have something to offer them that other people perhaps do not. I love to negotiate. I love getting referrals almost more than, repeat clients, but I love repeat clients, but I really like referrals. I like working with investors, and I really like working with estates. Two of those, again, it all goes back to those investors and estate sales tend to be people that see me as a professional and listen to me. I like to have boundaries in my business where clients know, where I do and don't work. I haven't worked a Saturday in probably 6 years now, and my business is going just healthy. I don't work. I don't work Friday afternoon, Saturday, or Sunday morning. I start working again Sunday afternoon, and so that's been pretty darn effective. Those are boundaries I put in place, and I found ways of making it work. I build breaks into my business, and again, I get energy from people who like me. I love to close deals, and I like motivated clients. Now, you might say a lot of those things, obviously everyone likes, but I've found ways of growing my business that tends to give me more of the energy versus the stuff. All right. So what is this? This is the perfect business, whether it's a real estate business or another business. But let's talk real estate. This is the perfect real estate business. Now, number one is always, your database. And then number 2 and 3 and 4 are different lead engines. I don't care what you're saying. Every single realtor out there should have number 1, which is their database, as their largest engine. Many of them might not because they're focusing on 2 and 3 and 4 too much. And not to say they couldn't have successful businesses, but I guarantee you they would have a much healthier, easier to navigate, easier to operate business if their number 1 engine, which is their database, which is people that know, like, and trust you, are getting your real estate information, are getting your content. If those people, if that engine is your biggest engine, you will have the biggest business possible. So that conceptually is the nicest, business. You got a big first engine and 3 additional engines. Now, this is the average business that I find out there. So you have, hopefully your database is your biggest, but it's not healthy. It's not a round circle. It's a blotch. You have multiple engines, and you feel like that's really good because you're like, I'm getting leads from, 7 different sources, 8 different sources, and that's awesome. I'm diversified. And the reality here is you might be spending more time on, engine number 2. Like, think of how much energy you're putting into engine number 2. And yet engine number 8 is bigger. It's getting you bigger results. And you're not even thinking about engine number 8. Engine number 8 might be, you're sitting on a pack meeting and you're doing it for your kids, and yet you're getting, the second most amount of all your business from your pack group. But yet you haven't consciously shifted that as one of your main engines, and you haven't focused on only having 4 engines, and you're probably spending too much energy for not enough return on a number of different engines that you shouldn't be. And so some of you might say, well, in this scenario I have more engines than in the other scenario. The reason you really only want 4 engines is because it's been proven that 80% of business for realtors and other salespeople really comes from only 4 sources of business. So it's engine number 1, which is your database, and then it's 3 other engines. What's interesting as well, and I don't have a slide for it, I've, especially new agents, especially agents that have been around for a while but haven't really found their niche or their momentum yet, they'll be bragging to me about their social media or they'll be really pouring into an engine. And then I'll talk to them about how's your database? Like, how many people are in your database? How many deals are you getting out of your database? How are you communicating with them? And you can tell they're avoiding it. Even so far that some people are years into the business and they have never taken the time to create their core number one engine and creating their database. That's kind of like refurbishing a 64 Mustang and showing me the nitro booster that you're so proud of, and you don't have a main block, a main engine in your car. And so you're bragging about this nitro, motor engine that can boost your car, and yet you can't even put it on the road because you don't have your main engine running. And so that's so critical. Really remember that your primary engine always needs to be your database, because the other three sources of business, the other three engines will will feed up to your main one. And so I'm not sure how to get rid of that marking. Thank you for whoever did that. Hopefully it goes away eventually. All right, so let's talk about your database. Database is powerful because once 50% of your business comes from your database, it becomes a data bank. And that's kind of like myself and many of you successful realtors that I recognize here on the presentation. You consistently know that you're going to get more than enough business to cover your expenses and generate, your kind of your low end profit side just from your database, which is now your data bank, because you continue to grow it. It consistently generates a return, and you pour into it. And that's pretty darn amazing, because you at least know you're going to survive every year. You know you're going to be, in the top tier of realtors, and you have a business that's essentially sellable. Like, that is a business that if you wanted to get out of real estate, you could sell it to me and I would take it over. And that is where you've taken a database and created a data bank when you get 50% of your business from your main engine. So how do you create that? Well, the easiest way to do it is a strategy that I call clean and cleanse. And I will share this simple spreadsheet and these talking points with you in an email following our presentation. And regardless of whether you're a new realtor just launching into the business, or you're, a realtor that's been around for a while and you're relaunching, a clean and cleanse strategy is always important. And so, everything starts from a database, and I'm with KW, so we use Command. There's lots of other amazing databases as well. It really comes down to what is a database tool system that you're willing to use, and that's the right one for you to use. Again, in the database primary engine, here is where I find most realtors lie to each other, to themselves. They say that that they've communicated with everyone in the world that knows them, that the people around them are aware that they're a realtor. And the truth is, they're probably communicating more consistently and more effectively with a random person they met over at an open house than people that they've known perhaps all their life, people they've gone to school with. Because it just seems to be like a little bit awkward to you feel like you're pitching to your friends. And yet, how bad would you feel? And it will hurt your relationship when your friend uses a realtor that in your brain you're just as good as, and why didn't they use you? Right? So you're kind of protecting your relationship, you're kind of protecting your mindset by really getting a great database started. So how do you do that? Well, first and foremost, before you put it into a CRM, you want to get really simple. So I have a simple Excel spreadsheet that I share with people. And what you want to do is you want to brainstorm all the people so all the people that you automatically think of, that they're all their details, that like you and know you, and write down all their name, phone number, and email. Then go through your cell phone, go through your Facebook, your different social media accounts that are important to you. And this is not a contest of who has the most people in their database. This is really a quality sorter. So first you want to write down all the names and phone numbers. And often what you discover is you might have been, a scout leader, and you might have been meeting with people every single week, other adults, for the last 6 years, and you know them, they trust you, they like you, they know you, but you'll realize through this strategy that you know their name, you know their phone number, you might even know their email, but you don't know their birthday, you don't know their home address, you are not, communicating with them. And yet, when you say that you should be the realtor of choice for them, and yet you're not putting yourself in a position to allow them to make a decision to use you when the time is right. And again, it has never been more important to be front of mind when someone has a real estate referral or a real estate need, because they just assume that you're busy. That's the story we tell the world. Realtors tell the world that we're all so busy and life is wonderful and we all drive Beamers. When in reality, we spend 80% of our time looking for people that we can serve. And so put yourself in the best possible position by creating a database. And again, write down everyone you know. What you'll discover is there's so many holes in your database. You have very limited information on most people. Your goal is to get the name, phone number, email, birthday, mailing address, at least from every one of the people. Only then, in my opinion, should people go into your CRM, because then you have the real information. You have the information then that you can send, a 36, 40 touch point plan to the people. That's sending a monthly newsletter, sending a physical item such as, birthday cards, anniversary cards, holiday cards, a calendar, and recognizing key dates like their birthday. And if you do that, and if you keep adding more and more people to your database that come from, your 3 other engines, you will have a business that keeps growing, that's healthy, and that's really, really effective. So this sounds easy, but like so many things that are powerful, it's not simple. And so the way you go about this is, again, fill in the name for every person you know. Then when you have that list, show the list to your loved ones, your partner, your family members, if you have older kids, your kids. And what you'll discover is it does 2 things. One, it shows the people around you that you actually go to work. Everyone who, probably knows you thinks that you wake up and you don't work as much as you do. You go have a coffee and see some friends and you call it a work day. But if you show them this list and what you're trying to achieve, one, they'll be like, legitimately impressed by how you're structuring and rebuilding your business. And 2, they often have extra people they can add to it. So many times people that I'm coaching, when they share this list with their partner, the partner adds another dozen people to the list where they're like, oh yeah, like here are my coworkers that they like you, they say they want to work with you in the future, and you add a dozen people to your list, like a dozen more people over the course of a decade. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars in real estate commissions. So it's definitely worth doing. Now you have people on the list, you're going to be missing a whole bunch of information. What you want to do is call them up with a purpose. And don't leave a message. So, call them. And when they answer, say what you're doing is just, either starting your real estate business and want to add them to your real estate database, or updating and getting more serious in your business. You want to add, some client events and invite them to that. And you're going to send out periodic items of value and touch points. And you really like to recognize birthdays. And so you're asking them again for their name, their phone number, their address, their birthday, because you want to be a professional at what you do. In that first moment, majority of people are going to give it to you because it's a non-threat. And there's even one step further. I don't know if I have it written down here that I do. And what I do beyond that as well is I ask them, hey, what are like 3 indulgences that you treat yourself with? And most people will be like, why are you asking that? And I'm like, well, when you give me a referral in the future, I want to send you something more personal than, a generic birthday or thank you basket. And what I'm doing in that moment is I am embedding at closing, I'm embedding that you are going to send me referrals, or and it's been so powerful because I have, for my database, I have a column that says indulgences. And for many people, it's like sports, food out, it's alcohol, it's types of activities. And so I have the ability, when I get a referral from those people that closes, I can actually, like if I know a person really loves, and this is a real case scenario, like loves a certain type of coffee and espresso, I get them like $300 worth of ground coffee. It blows their mind, and they brag about it to their friends because they have coffee for the next year. So those kind of questions early on in this process allow you to, fortify your database. If you don't do this early on, or if you don't do this at critical points in your business where you're rebuilding your database, you're always going to be thinking about it, and you're always going to be in pain when you lose opportunities. And a good example of that is when I fell into real estate 15 years ago, I didn't do it. No one told me about doing this. I went to Royal Roads University, did my business degree there, and I was surrounded by like 99 amazing, powerful people that later became, successful in a variety of arenas. And I would be sitting in open houses in the bottom of a building in Vancouver, and I'd run into someone I went to school with, and I just never added them to my database. I don't know if they would have used me, but I certainly can tell you if I added 10 of them to my database, probably a few of them would have used me. And we would have kind of a catch-up conversation in the lobby, and they tell me about how they purchased or recently sold, and I certainly never had a chance at earning their business. And the amazing part is those people that knew and liked me and trusted me back in university, many of those people have become very, very successful. And so I've left so much business on the table by not, taking a step back and really building a database from the ground up that, that could have become a data bank quicker. So this always needs to be your engine number one, regardless of whether you want to be an online social media expert or if you want to, focus in any number of arenas to grow your business. Your database is number one. I know a few realtors who have successful businesses without really a database. An example of those are people who often start with online leads, and they're very good with online leads, and they are constantly hunting. They have a hunting business. It works for them, but I know it would be so much easier to operate 10 years down the road if they created a database. And database is kind of like farming versus hunting. If you're a farmer, you know that if you do the right steps every spring, you till the soil, you plant, you water, results will happen. What you don't know is how bad will the weather be? Will there be animals that come in and eat some of the crop? But you'll have results. If you're a hunter and you do no farming, you're always out there having to find the next client. And so choose to be a farmer, choose to build the database, and then look on this sheet and find 3 other engines that fill your bucket. And so we're going to go through a few of them. And again, I'm working on this presentation further, and we'll run it again in January, and hopefully have a book by then that kind of breaks down every one of these lead gen engines with action plan, with a game plan of how to win in that engine and how to apply it. But there's so many ways that people are building their business. Now, to keep in mind, not all engines are equal. For example, a radio ad is really expensive, but has a lot of leverage. And so early on in your career, in your business, that might not be the right one for you, because you might only have enough budget for, 4 or 5 months of 6 months, hopefully, of becoming a realtor. One moment here, let me just mute someone. But later in your career, as you're making consistent business and as you're getting the results you want, having an ad on a radio might be very powerful for you, because you're willing to put in that time. There's high cost, high leverage. There's low cost, low leverage, and there's low cost, high leverage. Again, it all comes down to what's the effectiveness of that lead engine. How does it connect with, filling your energy bucket? And, are you willing to do it? So some brainstorming ideas. Really simply, I have for my entire career made free pens. And so I have guaranteed gotten business from my pens. And what I've done for well over a decade is I always have pens on me. When I go to a bank machine, when I go to a bank teller, I'm literally dribbling my pens everywhere. Everywhere I go, I leave a couple pens. When I'm in a restaurant, the waiter is always happy to get another half dozen pens that they're going to use for how many weeks after that. And they used to be a lot more expensive. I remember paying $2 a pen. I'm like down to 40 cents a pen, 36 cents a pen for a really good pen, because I buy thousands at a time. And I know I've gotten, where I get a phone call, and later through the process, we try and figure out, where they saw my name or how they came to call on me. And once in a while, it's these little things that you're like, yeah, somehow I ended up with your notepad or your pen. And so again, this is a good example of low to medium costs, low leverage, but maybe low effectiveness, but high leverage because it goes everywhere. Now, this is not an engine that is, that on its own is going to make a big difference. But if you already have a really big business and you just want to add another engine to your business that over the long term will make an impact, there are ideas such as this one that people are using. Early on in my career, I did really, really well by focusing on expired listings in BC. I can't speak for other areas, but in BC with our privacy protected situation now where we can privacy protect a listing, this is getting harder and harder to do, but it's still done. There's still realtors in the greater Vancouver that, the fundamental amount of their business comes from expireds. And so there is a strategy behind that. There's an active way that you could, incorporate expireds as a core part of your business by proactively door knocking or by having a mailer system. But it is an effective way of growing your business. We have branded tents now that we include a reminder in our 36 touch point that we send out to our clients that if they have an event where they need tentage, they can pick up free tents to use for an event or for a soccer game and bring them back. And so again, a lot of the different ideas that you could incorporate to your business are sometimes more mind share. So for example, this idea has been a great conversation starter when we have our client events at the office, where people are like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. I'd love to borrow your tent. And the truth is many of them never ask for it. So it's a low impact, low cost, but it's really getting visibility and it's something people remember, so it's something that could happen. And there certainly are clients that borrow our tents. In fact, on the North Shore where I live, I've purchased a few tents that I've given to a couple coaches that coach a whole bunch of soccer, and they throw up the tent, for 6 months of the year, it rains here. And so my tents are getting visibility throughout the North Shore, and, that has an impact. There's testimonial strategies. So there's lots of realtors that have, used the collection of testimonials as a great way to confirm with their clients that they've done a good job, a great way of confirming, of reminding that person that they work off of referrals. And they have a big presence online where they're getting new business. And this just happened. We just got a call in for a condo that we're listing next week in Kitsilano because a lady from Nanaimo found us online and she liked our reviews and it was my turn to meet with her. And so I'm listing the property for the team next week. And that is entirely an opportunity that came to us because of the different reviews we have out there. And there's lots of different platforms. There's some core platforms that work for reviews. You figure out, if it's a strategy, if it's an engine that you want to pour into. Like everything, again, think back to that picture of the unhealthy business that had, one sloppy, splotchy main engine and 8 small ones. We are much better to go deeper and more effective and more powerful in your core 4 engines than try and cover, a half dozen to a dozen, because it's just, that's the reality now. It's unless you're going to do something at a really high level, you're probably not going to, be in a position of visibility in that sphere. There's lots of realtors that have, branding that give out their clothes to their clients, that, sponsor events. For sponsored baseball games. We have an amazing realtor, JP, at the office. He sponsors a basketball game. I see tons of online promotion when they seem to be a really good team in their league. And so they win a lot and they're always happy, smiling faces when they're shoulder to shoulder and he's in there having sponsored the team, and it's a win-win. Client events, fundamental part of where we've taken our business, the whole team and myself for the last 15 years. I am nervous. I don't like talking to people. I'm a very introverted person. And yet it's really easy for me to, call people, invite them to a free client event because, again, it doesn't cost them anything and they usually have a really good time. So we've built a big business incorporating client events at the Kimbuna Group. And now at the brokerage, the office itself runs a client events program where many realtors participate, and they're able to, for a nominal fee, have participation in a number of different events throughout the year that they can invite clients to. So regardless of whether you're, at our office or you're at an office elsewhere, you can incorporate client events. Think of a small, the smallest modest event could be in the summertime that you send to your database, meet me at a park on a certain day between certain hours, and I'm going to be handing out ice creams. It'd be great to see you. You could literally, you could get a freezer and a generator and buy ice creams from Costco, and all in for $400. You could have, 100 clients come by for an ice cream, and what an impactful way of growing your business. There are many realtors, obviously, that you see. Every city has billboards that have chosen to grow their business by a strategy of large advertisement. That includes bus shelters, bench ads, and then, newspaper printing. We certainly, for a couple of years, were advertising in the Georgia Strait. We currently don't do that anymore, but I can definitely tell you we got business from it. And part of the way that we subsidized that was we actually had an ad, and there was always a preferred vendor feature that took up about a third of the space, and we sold that space to the vendors. They got exposure at a very nominal rate. That rate covered about 40% of that weekly ad, and so we were able to offset the cost by incorporating a vendor in a win-win proposition. Lots of great agents are doing cold calls, from or lead follow-up calls, and it's certainly something that you have to be very cognizant now of all the do not call lists and all the precautions out there of not targeting people who don't want to be available for cold calling. But if you do it the right way, it's still an effective way of growing your business for a very nominal cost. And kind of what it allows you to do is go from having, no contacts today, and 1 day, 2 days, 1 week later, you could be in conversation with people that are ready to buy, ready to sell. Like, that's how quickly that can happen. Just sold, just listed, postcards or flyers, promoting your listing and also looking for leads. It's a two-way win. Your sellers will be pleased to know in your listing presentation that you do, just listed throughout the neighborhood or within the building. It's a great way of advertising a listing. And, people who see 3-4 of your postcards will be like, wow, that person really sells a lot of business, sells a lot of real estate around here. And that will help you get more phone calls and get more business. Websites are obviously, there's a certain degree that you just need a website for a presence out there. So when someone Googles your name, they can validate that, who you are and that you have the experience and the skills to help them. And so that, I would say, at the very minimum, you need a website to validate yourself. But you could also have an awesome website that does lead generation, that goes above just validating your profession and your success, and goes into finding ways of targeting new prospects. We have an amazing realtor at the office, RD, who just kicks butt at door knocking. It's something I have never wanted to do. I've door knocked for sharing open houses with people, inviting neighbors to open houses. But it's, again, the cool part about these engines is some of these engines you're like, oh no, I don't want to do. And you don't need to, but you need to find 4 engines that you're going to do, at a high level. But door knocking for some people is, their bread and butter. They love it. They're great at it. And think about, if you could be good at an engine, if you could incorporate, an engine into your business that scares other people, scares people like me to have to go door knock a stranger, you're instantly in a world with a lot less competition. And imagine if you put the activities in, and then you put in the time to get not only time on the task, but you're getting more effective. You can separate yourself from the crowd so quickly through doing something that most people don't ever want to do. Tons of realtors have built a big business by making themselves an awesome agent for open houses. A lot of these strategies for one person could be an engine that amazingly grows their business. And for other realtors, it's just a byproduct. So for example, a person who uses open houses to grow their business is working on their open house all week, is inviting neighbors to it, is doing mail outs, call outs, is perhaps doing sneak peeks, is doing agent opens, and is really doing so much more than simply standing at the open house between 2 and 4 on a Saturday. And then there's other folks that are just running the open house as, a window of time to allow more people to see it. So both of those people are doing open houses. But one of them's doing it at an A+ level, and the other one's doing it at a C- level. And so it's a great example again of an engine is not equal in both people's hands. It's dependent on how it's treated and how it's utilized. And so you get to decide which ones you're going to focus on. Mailing postcards to neighborhoods, farming an area, like it costs money. It's a high cost, but it's also a high leverage because I'm personally not out there delivering my flyer. A postal person is doing it for me. And so this might be something that, if you're in the middle of your career and you have consistent funds coming in, you might start investing more of those, the commission dollars into getting leverage, getting, business that is calling you without you knowing about it until they call you. Of course, you can have television ads. Again, here's an example of a really cheap, lightly effective, low leverage one. This is where you see in the shopping centers where they have the billboards and they have, the local business people that put up the business cards. You walk by and you're like, oh, I should put my card up there. Or like, oh, that'll never work. What if you created a call to action? You created something that's, more than just throwing up your business card, but is something attractive and something that people will stop and grab or take a photo of, or have a URL or a code that they can scan. For very little money, you can get eyeballs on your business and potentially leads. It's doing things that other people might not want to do. So part of your one of your engines could be that you just create better quality product when you have listings than your peers. And so, instead of having a 2-page listing sheet for your listings, you create like individual magazines for each one of your listings. That's, showcasing the level of care and professionalism you put into a listing. If you do that, and if you share that with random members of public who have a selling need, that is a form of lead gen. That is a form of separating yourself from other realtors. You can put your name on water bottles and hand them out to associates in affiliated fields. And again, it's a matter of, how much would it cost? How many do you have to hand out? And what's the return that you're looking for? Obviously, we see bus ads. We have branded vehicles. And, I've been debating with this one for a long time in my life because I don't think I drive well enough to be branded. And so I don't do it. And Phil agrees with me, nodding his head. But every time I see someone driving around with a branded car, I think, man, that's really great value for $1,500. Like, I've been following this person for the last 10 minutes and I know their face, their phone number, and their tagline. And so you get to decide if that's something you would want to do. Again, similar to a shopping center pin board, there's apartment pin boards that you could showcase your business. You could sponsor a sports team like we kind of touched on. Yellow Pages is a good example, and I don't know if Yellow Pages is a good option anymore, but it's a good example of an engine that was really effective at one time and then dropped off. And I don't know if it's dead yet. It might be a perfect time where they're desperate for investment, for sponsors, for folks advertising, and you might get an amazing sweet deal that still gets in front of enough people to really make it worthwhile, versus when it was at its prime and it had 80 realtors advertising in it. A good example of that would be Yelp. I don't know if we have a slide for that, but at one time there's a realtor in my office, Charlie Kears. He was kicking butt with Yelp. And I don't think he does much from it anymore because I kind of feel like it's not working locally, but maybe it's going to get a second life to it. So go and find engines that at one time might have been very successful and could be rejuvenated and, again, could work for you. Traditional networking. I started a BNI group when I was 15 years ago in real estate. I applied for one. I didn't get in, so I had to start my own. And it was so fundamental in my comfort, in my skill building, and in my referral setting and referrals received. And so I've been in one form or another of networking, relationship building ever since. And it's not expensive. It's just your time and a little bit of money, and you're going to go into a room and surround yourself with a dozen, 3 dozen other professionals that equally want to build their business. There's very few settings where you get that opportunity for such a small amount of money. You could host a workshop, you could host tips on staging your home or decluttering it. I've just actually recently moved homes and hopefully don't have to do that for a few more decades, and realized, how many things that, I could have done better along the way. So what if you taught a class, taught a workshop that's not directly saying, hey, come speak to me because you're looking to buy or sell. It's giving advice, and indirectly you're adding people to your, again, engine number one, your database that you're going to service, and you're going to massage and send your touch points. And over time, they're going to send you referrals, and hopefully they're going to buy and sell with you. One of my strategies is finding retiring realtors, and finding realtors that have success, have history, and have, again, the contacts, but perhaps don't have it structured and don't really have a formal database, but helping them get some compensation and monetization for their hard work over the last 3 decades. And so making a win-win where their clients aren't just left in the lurch, and where the realtor isn't just working until a certain date and then giving it all up and not communicating that to their clients. So that can be, in many other industries, the financial planning world, that's a huge way of growing your business, buying a book of business. It just doesn't really happen in real estate yet, but it doesn't mean it shouldn't happen. There's a way of doing it that I'm doing quite effectively. And so it certainly could be a way of growing your business. What could it look like? A simple one, as if you're in a small town or something and you go to a local pizzeria, or it could be any town, and say, hey, can I provide you with the pizza boxes, or can I, for a small nominal fee, advertising fee, can I put my sticker on your sticker boxes or a stamp? And, could you come, again, think of ways where there's no additional really cost to your participation. So in a pizza company, they're going to already buy the pizza boxes. They're going to send out the pizzas. There's probably a way that you create a relationship where, you can put your brand on it for a nominal amount of money. And it's a win-win for you and for the pizza company, because maybe every month you give them a certain amount of money to have, a party or an event for their staff. And your name goes out on several hundred pizzas a week or a day or whatever it is. So that would be an example of a low cost but high leverage, creative way of growing your business. And that doesn't just have to stop at one location. That, you could take this engine, this concept, and really cultivate a way of growing your business passively through affiliated partners, where a person already has the money spent, but you're in front of it. Here's a great example. A realtor that used to be at our office, great realtor, drives around downtown with an ad on the bike with a little business card slot, and has gotten lots of great conversations, has gotten referrals in business from being himself, being out there and visible and charismatic. And so he's out there telling the world he's a realtor and use me. And, it works. There are people out there that don't know a realtor when they need one. So here's another one that was more popular when I started earlier in my career. It was a housewarming party kit. And so there's realtors out there that tell their buyers, when you buy your property, my closing gift isn't a generic basket. What it will be is, it'll be a delivered on your selection, on your date. It'll be a delivered turnkey housewarming party. So I'll bring you, all the cutlery, plates, everything you need. Plus we'll have, snacks and beverages delivered. And you invite your friends. That's all you need to do, and we'll have a housewarming party for you, and I cover the cost. People who employ this strategy are the types of people that often want to spend more time with their clients. And you give a housewarming party to your client, unless they don't like you, are going to invite you to it. And then you're going to go to the housewarming party. Everyone's going to thank you for the snacks and drinks, and you're going to meet a dozen to 2 dozen other people that are friends of your client. And, they're all in happy mode. They're going to talk about how great the place is. And you can't tell me that you shouldn't be able to add another 6-7 people from that party to your database, like highly effective for the small amount of money. You could also do a seller's party. There's no reason it can't go both ways. Like, Lots of people are really, really excited when they finally have their property sold. And you know what? Their friends, a seller probably knows other friends who are considering selling. And how amazing is it to get to that party that you brought the drinks and the snacks, and people are appreciating you, and they're a year or 2 years away from selling their own home. I mean, that in itself would be such an amazing engine if you did it at a high level that could, really get you busy on listings. There are ways, of having a lead gen engine that's really focused on targeting renters. So finding in markets, especially in markets where the rents are, high and for close to what someone is paying in rent, they could service a mortgage. A little bit harder in today's landscape, but in more normalized interest rate environments, that certainly has been a very powerful way of targeting renters. And we, as realtors, we often assume that everyone knows what we know. And there's probably so many renters out there that have no idea that, for maybe another $800 a month, they could own the property that they're renting. And what if you targeted, if you mailed to those people and told them of the opportunity, you could have some very quick, solid buyers that you're working with. Same thing, you could target landlords. You could target, find landlords who had ads for renting a property. I've created a large database by slowly collecting addresses from properties that have been rented, and we mail them, periodically, and we try and time it so they get a flyer maybe at 9 months into the lease, where the landlord is often reconsidering, should I sell the property or should I just continue the lease on a month-to-month situation? So we have gotten listings, we have gotten clients where we have, made them aware of our services, that we're really good at selling tenant occupied properties. And that has been by targeting, by realizing, kind of figuring out where a homeowner lives after I can figure out what they're renting. And so I've been able to target them at a property that they haven't advertised, but that I know that they're at. And so I've been able to get listings from that. Same way, it's a niche, right? So there's services out there, there's stores that focus on newly engaged couples. What would it look like if that was really your passion, to find ways of being affiliated with those bridal stores, or, with the catering companies, that you're building a niche around helping newlyweds? Often two people that are getting married, that part of the conversation is, in the next short while, is probably finding a co-housing situation. The cool part is, if you can make something like this your niche, again, these are people that are happy for, at that point in time, you would hope, and they're bragging about, their marriage. And if you can make them happy, they're going to be referring you to other people who are at the same stage as they are. And that's a really powerful way of building an engine. If you can, figure out an engine where naturally people are promoting yourself because they're in a frame of mind of doing so, kind of like, first-time buyers, newlyweds, those kind of folks, it's powerful. Same way, on the other side of the spectrum, it's finding a way of targeting divorced couples. Getting into relationship with divorce lawyers, with with financial planners, estate planners. Those are ways of doing that. Creating an engine around targeting investors. There's a great realtor in our office that is now only working with investors, and his sister is doing the more residential stuff. And so they figured out a way of focusing their business, because that fills his bucket. He likes driving around to faraway places, finding amazing deals. And so he's built a big business around helping investors find great cash flowing properties in areas where they don't live, because they have to go places to find the great cash flow if you live in Vancouver. Amazing realtor in our office, Karina, she focuses on 55 plus homeowners. So she is a senior specialist, and she has created a way of helping seniors, not so much on focusing on like, hey, you have to buy or sell, more passively on figuring out how can, your next living situation be the right one and the long one for you to, to be comfortable enough to sell your home. And so she has created an engine that, covers everything from all the services that are needed in transitioning from, perhaps your own home to an assisted living situation, And she has the personality and the temperament to be really good at that because she's been honest with herself. Same way as I've been honest, where I'm like, these are not my type of people. I want to move too fast. And yet we have worked together on clients. I came across a client last year that was referred to me, a lovely lady that wanted to downsize, and she was considering moving back to Europe or staying here in a potentially partially assisted living when she sells the home. I involved Karina for the soft skills, and we were able to put a deal together where the homeowner was able to live in the home for rent free up to a year while they made their decision. And I didn't feel like I left that seller in the lurch. Again, utilizing someone else's niche is sometimes a great way of you getting the job done and doubling down further on the core engines that grow your business. Classic buyer seller seminars, they've always worked, they continue to work. It's just, I think a lot of people are zoomed out, so you have to come zoomed out as we're doing Zoom. You have to come on creative ways of targeting them. Garage sales, I know a realtor that literally goes to garage sales, not because they want anything there. They might buy some trinkets, but they're really trying to find people that haven't committed to a realtor and who are selling. Often people who have a garage sale, it's a step towards decluttering. It's a step towards getting their home on the market. And so they find it a really effective way to find prospective sellers. So that's their engine, that's their niche. They don't do open houses. They spend their week going to garage sales. They've even migrated it into, going and inquiring on Marketplace about things and trying to find someone that's selling more than one item. Finding, someone that's selling a whole bunch of stuff that appears like they're downsizing, and they might go and buy one of the items to have a conversation with the seller. They're still going to buy the item, but it's more of a cost of advertising to see if they can't get in front of a true, seller that hasn't made a listing decision, a listing realtor decision yet. Amazing business around Facebook groups that you can cultivate. Facebook ads. Phil, who was momentarily here a moment ago, he's done really well through Facebook ads. At our office and on our team, we do a lot of coloring contests, and so it's a way again of adding more people to our database. You can do it at a very high level. You can literally build a business, one of your engines, around having high level, really successful, coloring contests that are situations where your database is involved, but they're also referring their friends and family members to join because you have awesome prizes and you make a really big deal out of it. Again, it goes back to doing things at a certain level has certain results, and doing it at the highest level becomes its own engine. Targeting builders, there's a whole strategy around that if that's your sweet spot, if you build one or two powerful builder relationships, that can often be the underpinning of your of your business and continue to generate listing opportunities and clients. Depending on your personality and your style, you could create an engine, a business that's supported by pop buys, where multiple times a year you create a little pop by that you go and visit your clients and have chit chat and give them something. And very few realtors do this. So if you do this, you're separating yourself from others. You are creating a moat around your business. And so that's really powerful in moments of time when you can do that. Again, the online ads, here's a great strategy that we employed. So every time we get a referral for years, we should pick it up again, but we haven't done it recently. We would, as soon as a referral would come in, we would go and deliver 3 mugs filled with candy to that person that gave us the referral. And ideally, we would drop it off at their work, knowing that they're not going to take 3 mugs of candy home. They're probably going to leave it at their work. They might take 1 home. And what would it look like if that person, and it has happened, gave us multiple referrals? We're dropping off by the end, the cupboard is full of our mugs, and you can't tell me that's not going to give us, further leverage and further referrals. And each one of these mugs, they used to be like $10. These are down to like $2 now. So a lot of things have gotten less expensive. And there's ways of, taking something as simple as a branded mug and building a strategy around it where it becomes a great way of generating leads for you. What sorry here. No. Okay, there is CMAs. So, creating evaluations and offering them to your clients and prospects. A lot of people do, offer it, but don't do it. If you proactively did it, it generates conversation. It's kind of the difference between this would be something that you could do and send to your people in your database. If you ask them ahead of time, do you want one? Often people will be like, no, I don't want one. But if you send it to them, very few people, would ever be unappreciative of it. And often it causes conversations. So you could build an engine around providing excess information, such as annual CMAs, to your sphere, to start conversations. You could have LinkedIn ads, branded candy that you hand out at your open houses, or this would be one of, again, getting brand visibility, low cost but high leverage, and so those tend to take a long time. But if you got a few deals every couple of years from it, which is totally reasonable, what would that do? Like, is there a way of incorporating that into your business? Again, Google Ads is a great way of growing your business. It's medium cost. It gives you high leverage. You just got to make sure that you're going to follow up with those type of leads. Otherwise, it's all for naught. It doesn't work for you. There are realtors that I know that have great businesses around contests, and I've actually started it again this year, where I have a contest. So I've communicated to my sphere that every time they get a referral, their name will go into a draw and one ticket. And when that referral has done business, they get an additional 3 draws. And I think it's on the early December, we're drawing, and we have a website that we created. We're drawing, I think it's like for 15 gift cards. And what it has been is a great touch point where I can communicate that contest to my database. I certainly know that certain people have it's motivated them, like, to send me a referral. Perhaps not in the sense of they wouldn't have done it if I hadn't had the contest, but they wouldn't have thought of it. And so it was a talking point that made them remember that they actually have a friend who's looking to buy or sell. And so, for a modest amount of gift cards, I'm running an annual contest. And then when we do the draws, there'll be happy winners. We'll advertise that. We'll share that in our social media. And if we do it consistently over time, you could build a really healthy engine over handing out prizes or running contests and separating yourself, from other people, getting referrals that way. We have, for years, we've gotten custom gum packs made that we hand out to our clients and include in our mailings and at open houses. There's people who have a really big business from, growing their YouTube channel and either focusing on a type of client or on providing a certain type of advice. You really have to figure out what your game plan is, because it's a long game, and over the long run, you're going to attract a certain number of and a certain type of people. An engine you could build is just being really solid at this is different, relocation specialists. So talking to other companies that focus on relocating, professional people to your market area, and how could you create an engine where you are, that's what you're targeting, and how would you go about that? That's certainly a way of doing it. You can have, again, client events. We spoke about that, and to draw in your existing clients and follow up with them prior to the event and have them invite, tell them we have excess hot dogs and burgers we over ordered. So can you think of 2 other neighbors that you could bring to the party? And they'll bring 2 other people to the party. They'll be grateful. There's a really good chance you can add them to your database. Again, rank my agent as part of the testimonial strategy. I know of realtors that have created, 10-kilometer races or other sporting events where they're the main sponsor, and their whole year is focused on running those events. And they found ways of making sure that they get referrals from it, because that's what they're passionate about. They're passionate about fitness and running. And so that's, where their referrals come from. And that is their engine. Again, an engine could be as simple as running a really powerful blog that draw in the people and where you're communicating a type of information and style to the marketplace. and doing it at a really high level. Radio ads, we've all seen skating rink ads. Again, it's a matter of how much cost versus exposure and what stage of your business are you at. You could be involved at a high level fundraising for your school and getting visibility, or with your PAC meeting. You could sponsor a charity and really focus on giving back to the community while making sure that the world knows who you are and that you're a realtor. And as a byproduct, you're getting gratitude referrals, and you're getting relationship referrals from people that you're building relationships with. So again, I don't know how many we've gone through. There's more that in the future will be part of this presentation, but the focus in that is, I hope that you're asking yourself, like, what am I doing for lead generation? Like, what are my engines? And, fill out what are the things that you kind of want to avoid. It's not going to go away right away, but if you can identify what is the stuff and what is the energy, you can figure out where you want to go. Again, we talked about what my stuff and my energy was, and what that has done is figured out what I want to do. Like, I figured out that I want to be a listing expert. I want to get listings with leverage. And I want to get listings because listings tend to take only about 27 hours of work, in my experience, to get sold. And I personally have found a way of working very few of those hours. And that fills my bucket because I can, put my most valuable time on listing a property and being a listing expert, getting it sold through having people around me, and that motivates me. And so I've been able to figure out what are the other engines that excite me, that fill my bucket. And so my second engine is a referral engine. My third one is a networking and aligned business. And my fourth is estates. And then what I've done is I've figured out, okay, how am I going to make those engines? So engine number 2, which is referrals, I have teaching opportunities like this. I teach at least every 2 months, something like this that I'm sharing on Zoom, and I'm going to get a referral or two over the next year from people who are hopefully on this seminar, because hopefully I've poured into your bucket enough that you'll remember me. And so, yes, I love sharing, and yes, this presentation is also becoming kind of a book and a program that I can gift people. But also it's part of my referral engine. It's an action step in my referral strategy that will generate business for me. I have, ambassador partners that I get referrals from. I get referrals from my database, and I'm part of a relocation network where I get referrals as well. So I've, figured out, here's 5 different things that I'm going to do. And what it will generate is referrals, and it will bolster my referral engine that I've created. Engine number 2 is networking. So I have a preferred vendor program where I'm calling and adding different people to it, no cost to them. They're getting exposure in my preferred vendor program, and they're getting in front of my clients for their own business. I have a service directory. I have a newsletter strategy where we send out newsletter every month to our sphere. And I'm part of different networking groups. And so altogether, it builds my networking engine because, again, it allows me to find the types of people and do the activities that fill my bucket. And then finally, I really love estate sales because I love the fact that, you don't have to reapply to be the realtor of choice if you have the right relationship. You're just getting a phone call saying, this type of property needs to be sold. Here are the details. And that really resonates with me. And so I continue to grow my relationships with the right type of lawyers. I have an estate sale service directory. So as soon as I have an estate sale, regardless of whether it's a hoarder or a difficult estate or whatever the situation is, everything from a locksmith to a hazmat cleaning company, I have people that I've worked with that I can take care of that estate situation. And I make the lawyers aware of that I'm more than just a realtor that wants estate referrals. I'm actually a specialist in that area that can help them. And I've figured out a way of creating an engine that gives me estate sales. And so that is, again, my 4th engine. And that has not just come passively. What I discovered over the years was I had more than 4 engines. I had a whole bunch of them, like I identified earlier, and I was not aware of which ones were delivering to me the right type of return. And so what helped me is I constantly track where my business is coming from. And so I'm able to see, where the transaction source started And then I'm also able to fine tune and figure out, okay, I really like those types of clients. I really like those types of transactions. And it allows me to figure out, how do I get more of them? And so I have chosen to build my business on these 4 engines after I've selected all the others and dismissed many of them. I mean, many times in my career before I actively did this, I thought of door knocking. I tricked myself into thinking, yeah, that'd be something good. But I did that every time I was low on business. And so it was in a time of desperation when I knew deep down inside I never wanted to do it. And so I've been able to build a business based on what fills my bucket and not on what drains me. So once you've done that for your business, now you need to get accountable. So what can help you is create a 90-day habit tracker and just figure out what are the core habits that you need to incorporate in order to, rejig, relaunch your business around your core 4 engines. And then track it, print this off, and I'll send it out to you. Put it on your mirror, put it on your fridge, and really do your best to, hit 90 out of 100. In my experience, if you can do 85 to 90 success of your habit tracker after 100 days, like, you got it, you're there. You're building a new habit that is going to take place. And so that's a great way of you getting started. Love that you guys are still here. So thank you for listening. That was kind of what I wanted to cover. Let me look here on maybe some questions. Anyone feel free to jump in if you have any questions. See here. The gum packs. The 4imprint does gum packs, and Comda does gum packs. Those are 2 marketing companies. I've recently gone local. There's actually a preferred vendor in our office who now does them for me, because the other 2 companies, they're out of the States, and they have a rule now that you have to, in large letters, focus on the ingredients. So it pretty much takes up the back of the gum pack, and I don't want that. So we went with a Canadian company, I think, that circumvents that. So if you have trouble finding that name, just reach out to me and I will send you their business card. Yeah, that's true, Simon. If you wrap your car, it changes your driving habits. Monica, thank you. Thank you, friends. Yeah, I mean, if there's no questions, I welcome you all and thank you for being here, and really welcome you to work on your business. We spend too much time working in the business, and really take time to work on top of it, because that's where the little opportunities really come, and you get more impact for all the hard work you put in every day. Thanks, everyone. Go out there. Have a great 4th quarter. Thanks, Charlie. I like your script. Cheers.